Well, in April 2018, Michael and I flew to Atlanta, hired a car, and we moved through Mississippi, and we arrive in Tupelo, and we see Elvis's birthplace, really, his first home. And this was a great start to our 6-week trip. And it was great to be back in Memphis once again, on Beale Street, where we met up here with Rod Bland next to the statue of his father, Bobby Blue. In the evening, we mosey on down Beale Street to watch his band play live, and fantastic memories for us, really. And here's our pic coming up of our first meeting in Memphis a few years ago when we met Rod. But every Wednesday it's bike night, so we did it once again. We had to be there for the Wednesday. We ended up staying 4 nights here in Memphis again. And we decided to take a little road trip down through Mississippi to Helena, and we meet up with this lovely, delightful lady in the cafe and many other people in this area. We had great chats too. And this was the home of the King Biscuit radio station. They're still going after 45 years, the longest radio station going. And we visit the museums, and here's Howling Wolf. Pine Top Perkins's hat, such an interesting place, really. We loved it. Next day we have a visit around the National Civil Rights Museum. We visit the site of Martin Luther King's assassination, and we found it all very interesting and quite sad, really, the whole affair. And this is the room where he was shot outside the Lorraine Motel. We visit the Blues Foundation Museum in Memphis. Well, Bobby Blue Bland's best friend, of course, was B.B. King, and this is B.B. King's great guitar, Lucille, whose godson, now Rod Bland, carried this at the funeral. A very proud man indeed. Enjoyed a fabulous mooch around the Gibson Guitar Factory, where they make the wonderful guitars, and then back on Beale Street on the night. Well, time to leave Memphis today, and we take a short drive to the wonderful Clarksdale, Mississippi. Just a 74-mile drive. Lovely day, so we popped in the museum here. Wonderful. Well, folks, guess what instrument this guy plays? His name is Deke Harp. Well, on our second day in Clarksdale, we take a little road trip down to Rosedale and have a good look around this area and come back through where the famous Crossroads guitars are on Highway 61 and 49, and in the evening we go to Reds, another great place, and obviously Morgan Freeman's club here, Ground Zero, once again. Well, on our previous visit here, he was actually here. Morgan Freeman got up on stage and sang. Yeah, it's always great to stop and meet different people. And on this table, we had a variety of people watching Lucius Spiller here, who was quite brilliant, actually. And a bunch of motorbikers in as well, having fun. And in the morning, it's off to Dallas. And of course, you can't go to Dallas without seeing the spot where President Kennedy was shot. And that was a very interesting day, in fact, to see this, and one that we couldn't miss, really. And quite clearly we found out on the day that several shots were fired from that grassy knoll. And it was never just one shot that killed him. But it was an interesting day. And then, of course, we arrive in Austin, Texas, where we first thing is to see the statue of Stevie Ray Vaughan, the legend guitarist, who sadly died in a helicopter crash. Eric Clapton going in a different helicopter, 27 years of age. What a sad loss to the world. On the night, we unbelievably saw Tommy Shannon, his bass player here in this very famous club, Antone's, and he was very pleasant and nice to us, spoke to us afterwards, signed autographs. A great fella. Thank you, Tommy Shannon. Before leaving, Tony Stokes from the Crossroads Blues Club said, "Derek, you've got to go to Sam's Burger Joint." So we arrived there, and we knew Tommy Castro was on, and that really made it a wonderful evening. And he was happy to sign autographs and things afterwards as well, and we had a good old chat. Here he is, look. Lovely bloke. Well, you don't go to San Antonio and leave without seeing where the Alamo battle was fought, and here it is, the Alamo. And in walking distance from our Airbnb, I found this little garage, and this guy was fantastic. He built this bike completely by himself. And in the evening we went for this fantastic steak restaurant. And next day we leave for El Paso, just a minus 7-hour road trip. And just a 2-minute walk from our Airbnb, we found this wonderful place. What a great evening we had here. Well, we go through New Mexico on our way to Tombstone, and now we're in Arizona, and now we're in Tombstone. But it did take 8 hours to get there, I have to say. Well, we decided we needed a 2-night stay here just to refresh after all the long drives and just relax in this crazy little place called Tombstone. Well, Airbnbs I've known to be good all over the world, but this one was the oldest accommodation ever known in Tombstone. In fact, the room I was in was the one Wyatt Earp lived in. Crazy. Michael prepares for the gunfight show. And we can't leave here without showing you the Wyatt Earp room. And here's the gunfight. And the OK Corral is packed for this one. Well, we head to California 2 days ahead of schedule, and really looking forward to San Diego. And this looks like a wonderful Airbnb, which it was. Fantastic inside, and we really love San Diego. Absolutely amazing place. But this Airbnb was something special, incredible. Well, we met up with a young veteran from the Vietnam War, and he was good fun. In fact, we spent a couple of nights with him in San Diego. this wonderful Sicilian restaurant gave us the best food on the trip so far. Superb. And we spent Saturday in Old Town San Diego, and this was amazing as well. Incredible. And this was a fantastic day as well. We crossed the big bridge over to Coronado Island and more or less straight onto the film set of this wonderful hotel Coronado, right on the beach there. It's where they filmed Some Like It Hot with Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe. What a fabulous place. Sort of very Art Deco, early 50s style in the town. Wonderful. Well, San Diego, of course, is well known for the US naval base here, and we took a little trip out to have a look around that too. Marvellous. And check this dude out here. We had a quick pit stop to check out the Queen Mary here in Long Beach on the way to Santa Monica. It was nice to see that. We were lucky to see President Trump and King Jong-un, probably the first to see them having a chat. There was only one place to go really in Los Angeles on day one. That was Sunset Strip, and we visited quite a few of these wonderful historical clubs on the Strip, and also had a little visit to West Hollywood and And it was just an excellent day. But seeing the history here, the Whiskey A Go Go, the Troubadour, all these places, and the original Tower Records building, just sat having a drink opposite that was enough. And then Venice Beach, of course, which is iconic, really. And of course you get that wonderful whiff of cannabis on Venice Beach at sunset. Very reassuring, and of course it's freely available in California, cannabis, and yeah, very interesting. Well, the last time I was on Hollywood Boulevard was 1981, and it seems to have gone down the nick a bit, in all honesty. It's a bit tacky now, but anyway, it had to be done. Well, today we decided to actually get a Uber taxi and leave the car at home at the hotel, and enjoy a morning at Malibu, where it was slightly overcast day, and some poor lady here hadn't caught a fish. She was a bit miserable, but this is the home where all the film stars live, above the hills in all their flash houses and things. But it was interesting to see it anyway. Not the best of days. The temperature was good, but yeah, overcast today. We now head north to Monterey, our next destination. On the way, we stop here and have a lovely cup of coffee on the seafront in Santa Barbara. Home maybe where one day you might find a prince and princess living. And anyway, we enjoyed it here around this area, not far from Oprah Winfrey's house, I believe. Arriving here at Pebble Beach in Carmel, I just had to get out and have a look at the golf course and buy a hat and a few other things from the pro shop. And Clint Eastwood was once the mayor here at Carmel. Yeah, lovely spot. And Monterey was lovely for the evening, where we had a fantastic meal with a great restaurant overlooking the bay here. Really lovely. I'm not sure if Eastwood was the mayor or the governor. He might have been the governor. Well, after being on the road for nearly 5,500 miles, we arrived in San Francisco and took a taxi after leaving the car behind. First stop was Lombard Street, the bendiest street in the world. And it was just so nice to actually relax in a taxi now, knowing that the hire car was safely locked away and we hadn't got to drive it again. So I took Michael down Lombard Street again, where I came in 1981 with some friends. It's interesting. But always like San Francisco. We're booked into San Francisco for 5 nights, so we took advance tickets on the tour buses and thing to see all the sights, and this included a tour of Alcatraz, which I hadn't done before. I've been round it in a boat, but I found that quite a fascinating little trip today. Alcatraz, wonderful, home of the Birdman. Well, it wasn't home to just Richard Stroud, the Birdman. Also Al Capone served quite a few years here. This tour was fascinating. Michael and I both enjoyed this with the headsets. You could hear, you know, back in the day when they were writing here and making a noise, it was so realistic. It was quite scary. the cable car museum was really interesting because actually shows you the mechanism that's operating all the cable cars still today. And it's a really interesting day we had here. Enjoyed it. And here you can see all the cables that are going that pulled them through the streets. Anyway, after that we took a little trolley bus trip through various nice spots in San Francisco, and near the home of Jimi Hendrix when he stayed here, just up on the left. Robin Williams made his debut here at this club, Cubs Club Comedy in San Francisco. And later that day we take the trip over the Golden Gate Bridge, and we head to the Muir Forest area, and it was lovely to see the giant redwood trees there. Well, Otis Redding and Steve Cropper wrote this famous song, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and here's the bay it's all about. Well, sadly, Otis passed away, died early, too young, and the song was released and made a big hit just after his death. We take a 5-hour flight to Hawaii. Well, my dear old pal Paul decided to join us in Hawaii for this leg of our trip, and it was great fun to have him on board here for 4 nights. We had a laugh. Well, I was here in Honolulu a few years ago after a cruise with friends, and I found this little tiki bar here in Honolulu, and it was amazing. So I just had to take my mates here to this, and we had a wonderful night. Great entertainment, fairly cheap booze and food, and yeah, it was fun. Visited Pearl Harbor as well on my previous trip. It was great to go back again and show my friends Pearl Harbor. Just had to be done. And we had a passing out parade there as well, which is great. In the evening we saw these lovely local dancers. Cracking view down below of this Honolulu golf course. Well, next up we go from searing heat to freezing cold of Alaska on a 5-hour flight. Off we go. The glaciers may well have been melting on this little boat trip, but I have to say it's the coldest it's been the entire trip. Michael and I both bought new warm jackets the first thing we did when we arrived in Anchorage, and it's bloody freezing and windy here today, but it's an extremely great sight to see these giant glaciers and breaking up. You can hear them cracking. Global warming, eh? I don't know. Well, it's time to leave the cold of Alaska. On a 3.5 hour flight, we arrive in Seattle for our last stay for 3 nights. We stayed at this famous old hotel. I must say it was quite extraordinary, and we had a few nice meals here in Seattle, home of coffee of course, and we found this wonderful blues club. It was a fabulous night. The night Michael and I met Johnny Bergin and Stephanie Tice. A night we'll never forget. What a marvellous evening it was. So we went back the following night and had yet another wonderful night. But as it happened, a year later, Johnny and Stephanie visited myself in Birmingham. And Johnny did a solo gig at the Crossroads Blues Club, Tower of Song. Well, Jimi Hendrix was born in Vancouver, but Seattle was his hometown. And we visited the museum, the Rock and Pop Museum here, and they've got a special place there for Jimmy, which you'll see in a minute, but it was great to go and visit that. Of course, Jimmy also lived in San Francisco, even London, and moved around a bit. And now we're at the Museum of Pop Culture. And the first thing you see is a guitar tree. Of course, the iconic musician from Seattle was Jimi Hendrix, and here's the guitar he played at Woodstock. Yes, of course, synonymous with Seattle are Pearl Jam, Nirvana, famous people born here, you know, Bill Gates, Kurt Cobain, Chris Cornell, the list goes on. And not forgetting the very famous Judy Collins. Well, that's the end, folks. Hope you enjoyed it.